For more on what's happening across the region in Tel Aviv, we have Alon Pinkas, a former Israeli diplomat who's joining us, and in studio, Luciano Zaccara, a Middle East analyst and Iran analyst. Luciano, I want to start with you because we're seeing the beginnings of this leadership council take shape. How important is that for Iran and the stability that it has at the moment?
I think it's very important, and I think that they are following all the steps they already decided in advance. I mean, Iran knew that Khamenei was a target and that eventually this would happen, and they wanted to prevent the vacuum of power that would destabilize the country, and they wanted to make sure that all the steps were followed accordingly in order to guarantee a smooth transition. And I think that these are the steps that they have been followed, and they are going to achieve what they want. Even though many senior figures of the military establishment, they are being killed, even Shamkhani or people that they have political positions, they have been eliminated. But I think that this shows that what is not important is the figure who is going to be elected, but the way in which the different organizations within the regime hold together and they all go through the same lines without defecting from the regime. That is what Trumps expect to happen. Because
that is the point, isn't it? The point of having the structure of power in Iran the way that it is so that it can withstand something along these lines.
Exactly. The structure has been there, and even after June, when many figures also were eliminated, remain untouched. And now the political figures are being eliminated, and still the regime will stand. Khamenei lately was more an arbiter rather than a final decision maker in Iran. This is something very important to understand. Iran has been always a collective way of making decisions with a more important figure that was Khamenei, but there was always needed consensus between the different elected and non-elected institutions, the Council of the Experience Council, the Security Council, now the Defense Council. All these councils participate in the decision-making process on what is going on now.
And Alon, I want to go to you in Tel Aviv on what's happening here and the fact that Iran is working so quickly to replace the leadership that has been lost. It surely won't come as a surprise to Israel that plans were in place for this. But will it be something that they will be concerned about if they are able to just continually replace and prop back up all of these institutions in quick succession? Obviously, that makes getting rid of this regime a lot harder of a task.
Well, naturally, Riley, because it makes the regime change premise unviable or not feasible. Look, there is a tendency to look at dictatorships in the same way as if you eliminate the dictator, you eliminate the dictatorship. You eliminate Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, Libya disintegrates. You eliminate Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Iraq disintegrates. You eliminate Bashar Assad in Syria, Syria disintegrates. But in Iran, as Luciano was alluding to, it's not just a dictatorship. It's also an Islamic revolution. It's ideological. It has a structure. It has a hierarchy. It has a coalition of like-minded, but nonetheless somewhat different factions that need to reach not necessarily a consensus, but some kind of understanding, which is why, as much as Iran's regime is going to be weakened by this, assuming this goes on, this Israeli-American or American-Israeli operation goes on, even though there are indications that the Americans are looking for a way out, but that's beside the point. Maybe we can get to that. There's no question about it that you cannot induce regime change via missiles and airplanes. This needs to be a bottom-up enterprise, and I don't see that happening. I see, at least for the foreseeable future, I don't know how this is going to end. I don't know if this is going to escalate. I don't know how long or the duration of this war is going to be, 2 days, 12 days, or 22 days. Really, I don't know. But if the regime changes, I go back to your question, Riley, it is a major setback to anyone who falsely thought that if you just attack Tehran, if you just bomb more targets, the regime will fall. That's not going to happen.
Well, I can't let you leave that hanging in the air here, Alon. What makes you think that America would already be looking for a way out of this?
Because I think there's a divergence of interests between Israel and the U.S. Israel wants to see a regime change, and Israel wants to see the U.S. Induce or affect that regime change. And if you will, Israel is wagging the American dog. Netanyahu is wagging Mr. Trump. The U.S. on the other side, from Trump's point of view, this war is not popular. Only 21% of Americans 2 days in a poll conducted 2 or 3 days before the attack, only 21% of Americans thought this war is justified, has a reason, and serves American interests. The longer it goes on, the quicker Mr. Trump would want to declare victory and again use those, his spectacular terms. We obliterated, we eviscerated, we annihilated, okay, that's fine. So I do think there's a divergence in the next, 4 or 5 days in which the U.S., this is a scenario. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen. The U.S. declares victory. Trump says, we won, we destroyed, we did what we promised. I did what other presidents didn't do. Mm-hmm. Now it's up to the Iranian people. And I go back to your comment before that, Riley, but the regime is still in place. Mm-hmm. By the way, as is the case in Venezuela. No, I'm not making a comparison, but just for the sake of conversation. And Israel is stuck with a situation in which it is now facing, there's no Khamenei, great, but there's someone else.
Right. And Luciano, I'm sure that that's something that they're considering in Iran as well, is can we outlast and keep the regime going long enough to sort of outlast this round of military action?
Well, if what Alon says is true, that it might be, because at the end of the day, Trump did not want to enter in this war and he doesn't want to invade Iran. Trump is happy to negotiate with this regime to achieve what he wanted. At the end of the day, what Trump wanted is a better deal than Obama. This was all his aspiration, and to eliminate Khamenei. Khamenei is eliminated. Now he needs to achieve an imposition of conditions towards Iran as a defeated country in a war that Trump started. And this way he can say, okay, I achieved an agreement and nobody else did it because I impose my will and impose our tremendous power over Iran, and therefore we surrendered them and we made them to sign. What Trump wants is not regime change or regime collapse, it's regime surrender, so they can impose the conditions. If this can be granted with what they did until now, I think Trump would be okay pulling out from this war. The problem is I don't think they will achieve that. So far I don't see the Iranians stepping down. I mean, today it's the second day. Now in Qatar we are more or less quiet, but we had 2 or 3 salvo of missile this morning. Oman was hit today, but yesterday was not. So we don't know if this is going to continue more days and more American assets will be attacking the region.
And so I want to ask you, Alon, because if what both the American president and the Israeli prime minister have sort of marketed this as we're ridding ourselves of an existential threat and we're giving help to the Iranian people to rise up. But what do you think Prime Minister Netanyahu's, what will he consider a victory here? If there's only one of those things, is that still a victory?
No, it's not. He's going to declare one, but it's. If I were him, I would declare one, and I would go with what Luciano said. If Trump presents this as Iran is defeated and now we negotiate, Mr. Netanyahu would be wise to join in and say, I concur, I agree, I subscribe to this. But for Mr. Netanyahu, this is a messianic adventure here. He's out to bring down the Islamic Republic. He has somehow manipulated, convinced, or co-opted, call it what you want, the U.S. into this endeavor. And anything less than that cannot, in his mind, be considered victory. Now, there's one thing, I think we discussed this earlier today. Riley, there's one thing important to understand about Mr. Netanyahu. For him, it's his legacy and narrative, not just his fixation and obsession with Iran, but the idea to change the narrative from being the prime minister responsible for the worst catastrophe in Israel's history, October 7, 2023, to some kind of a strategic triumph, remodeling and redrawing the Middle East landscape. Anything less than that would not be considered a victory. Don't forget, this is a guy who proclaimed every other day that we will not relent, Israel would not relent until total victory in Gaza. That's not been achieved, has it?
That's a good point. Alon and Luciano, thank you both for being here with us.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.